Well, then he also went on his Buddy the Elf walkabout in the North Pole. That's what it looked like when he got up there. When he got to the North Pole, tell me that didn't look like I was waiting for a narwhal to say, "Hey, Kal-El."
Soundstripe.
And welcome to another episode of Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast where if you're like us and you miss the days of packed movie theaters and movie stores, and this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Caleb Suggs. Joining me is one of my co-hosts, Dakota Lowry.
What's up, everybody?
And Ernie Ferguson.
Why is the most brilliantly diabolical leader of our time surrounding himself with total nincompoops?
Is that what you ask yourself every week you do this podcast?
Wednesday.
I believe it.
I figured it'd be every day since you're a middle school principal.
Well, that's true.
I hope none of his students listen to this.
Oh, well,
they're middle schoolers. Come on.
I told the high schoolers I taught the same thing. So I mean,
yes, he did. As one of his former students, he told us that on a pretty regular basis.
That hadn't changed. Idiot is a term of endearment from me. That's
middle school principal. That means he's in charge of my dad.
Yeah. Your dad tried to like pass off powder puff duties to me. He said, "Since I'm the head coach of the 8th grade, can I make it you do it?" I was like, "Oh no, I'm the athletic director." He said, "Well, the school stuff." "Well, I'm also the assistant principal." "Oh yeah, never mind." I was like, "Yeah."
Hey,
well, moving past,
throw him a bone. He's been out there painting that field house. Somebody throw him a bone.
Hey, that sounds like a self-inflicted wound right there.
Hey, he's just doing his part for the community.
Oh, he is. Oh, no, he's doing a fantastic job.
You can handle some powder puff, Ernie. You can do
big
it.
negatory, good buddy.
You former varsity girls basketball coach. I believe in you.
I'm also a former football coach too, but that don't mean I'm going to do it though. That's a big negatory.
Speaking of things that we were forced to do this week's movie was Superman. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad. But yes, Dakota's pick this week was Superman. And tell us how you arrived at this pick.
Well, like I mentioned last week, my wife is watching a TV show at the moment called Smallville. I have not watched a lot of this, but I have been really intrigued by the Superman series, and I kind of wanted to go back and see where it started. I've also been kind of wanting to watch a superhero movie. And I have not watched. I take that back. I didn't think I had watched this movie, but I have apparently seen this movie because I had seen a lot of parts of this movie. I guess I just never put two and two together that it was this movie.
This movie is the ultimate, in my opinion. I saw a lot of this in pieces on TV as I was growing up.
Yeah. I definitely saw a lot of this growing up, and I can kind of understand why my parents didn't want me to watch it.
I don't know I'm sure I have, but I don't know. I couldn't tell you the last time I actually sat down and watched it, but I know I've seen like every piece of this movie at least once on TV at some point.
See, this is one of those movies, I guess it's kind of like the Rocky movies, where evidently I thought Superman 2 was the original Superman, because I thought the whole storyline with General Zod was Superman 1, and Lex Luthor showing up was Superman 2.
They fool you. Because the opening scene is Zod, which I had to I didn't remember that part. So when it came on, I was like, wait, did I click on Superman 2? And then, but I mean, at the same time, they filmed Superman and Superman 2 at the same time. They actually had Superman 2 like 75% completed, and then there was like a falling out with the directors, and then they had to go get another director. So then they went back and finished Superman 1. So, I mean, it was all, but they shot like all of it basically together.
Which I wonder how many times, nowadays, I've heard that more nowadays, but now in 78, I wonder how many times that somebody has actually done that.
That seems ambitious, especially
that's
because
what I was thinking too.
At this time, this was in 1978. This was the most expensive movie that had ever been made. So when you're throwing all that money on a superhero movie, which again it's 1978, their superheroes weren't like a big deal. It seems ambitious to say, "Hey, we're going to go ahead and film the second one too."
Especially since I think, from what I gathered, the studios basically said, "All right, Richard Donner, all you people, y'all spend your money. Then once it gets put out, we'll pay you back for it." So again, all those people were trying to like they had to shovel their own money. Like they had to shovel out $3.5 million for Brando to be on set and not like people and hate it and have a miserable experience the whole entire time for 2 weeks. That's all. I mean, that's all. That's what they got out of Brando was 2 weeks of whatever that was that he did.
Yeah, it seems like a big gamble. I'm honestly a bit too big of a gamble if you ask me, because I don't really know of a lot of superhero movies that came out before this. Really,
the only one I could think of was the Adam West Batman movie, which was the TV show, but then they did make a movie out of it.
Yeah,
but I mean, this was not. It was. I mean, you're talking about a movie that was made off a TV show and it was super campy. It was not made to be a big blockbuster.
Yeah.
I guess late 60s is when that came out. I don't know. I used to have that on DVD, actually.
But I mean, you still think even in the comic book eras, like they're not as mainstream as they are today. Like they're a very niche, like small corner of the population that are watching those, and to take this movie into, like I said, record both of them at the same time. I had no idea about that. It's just way too high of a risk for not enough reward, which I mean, it paid out, and it eventually worked, but
yeah, that's why the studio didn't cough up the money at the beginning, and so that's because again they did think it was kind of a risk, and even more of a risk though is the fact that you're talking about a superhero that we're talking about 78, so Watergate and Nixon was 4 years ago. You're talking about the Vietnam War, so people are cynical. And you come out and you get this ideological, this polite, this pure superhero. It truly, to me, this is what Superman is. Now, it's not what Superman has become currently, but you're talking about like true comic book form of Superman. That's what this is, and to go with this, with this character, especially, and it had to be an unknown too, because they were talking about trying to cast, because they got a Marlon Brando, then they got Gene Hackman, and the rumor was they wanted Robert Redford for this, but then you got too many egos right there fighting against each other, and that's why I get the thing about Christopher Reeve, an unknown. Richard Donner fought tooth and nail to get Christopher Reeve, in it, and to me. And we'll have this debate too. I think he is when I think of Superman, again, I think of Christopher Reeve, and we can have that debate in a little while, or right now if you want to.
No, wait, yeah. I agree. Up to this point, I think he's the best portrayal of Superman there is. Now, I hope that changes in July. I'm very excited about the new one, so I hope that changes. But I mean, he's fantastic in this movie, which is mind-boggling when you think about it, because he doesn't appear until 47 minutes into the movie. Let me just say that again. The star of the movie does not appear until 47 minutes into the movie.
Now look, I had issue with this too when I was watching it, and then as I was sitting down and processing through it and go with it, that we in 2025, okay, almost 50 years after this movie came out, 47 years later, okay, we are kind of how do I want to put this? We're kind of babied. We're kind of used to superhero movies, and so we know. I mean, Superman's like lore and the fact that he's from Krypton and the whole thing. Everybody kind of knows that. Everybody has a general idea about who Superman is. When this movie came out, like I mentioned before, that wasn't very common knowledge. They didn't know who it was. And so, to me, like, Did they kind of go a little overboard with the origin story? I think they kind of did, but I do think it was necessary to put that much in there and to not have, your quote unquote star, come out until that late in the movie,
No, you're right. I mean, they definitely left no stone unturned when it came to the origin
Absolutely
part of this.
not.
They went, and I think you see that. I think you see people that from the writer and the director that were generally like the story of Superman, and they wanted to tell every single aspect of his origin. But at the same time, 47 minutes is crazy to not have your star, especially since like the Zod scene that opened it up. And obviously, we'll get to this a little bit. But I mean, why? I mean, because he's not even part of this movie. Like, why did we need that? We did. They could have just went straight to the hey, Krypton is blowing up. We need to. I mean, there was no reason to have the Zod scene in this movie. So,
no,
I mean, there's a 10. I don't know how long that scene was, but there's a little bit of a chunk you can cut out right there.
Yeah, there's a solid. This movie is slow. That is my biggest complaint about this movie. Is this movie it drags on forever. There's a solid 45 minutes of screenplay that you can cut out of this movie, and it would have no impact to it at all.
The one thing, though, that I like about this, it is long, but you have 3 distinct places. You have Krypton, which was they spent 24 minutes in Krypton. Then you have Smallville, which they spent about another 24 minutes, and then they have Metropolis. But in the grand scheme of this, what I liked about this movie was one, we didn't have a Superman with a dark side. We didn't have a Superman that was struggling internally. His only real struggle internally was to hide his powers, like Jor-El told him to do, or does he use his powers to help people and stuff like that, like Paul Kent did. But again, that's one of those things I think it became important to the story that they were telling about Clark Kent and Superman in Metropolis. Now, did you need all that stuff? But, to me, I like this version of Smallville. I really like this version of Smallville and the relationship with his parents because it really set up, what Superman and Clark Kent were about. Especially my favorite comic with Superman is called Red Sun, where Superman landing in the Soviet Union, how would Superman be? So you get, and that's what you get here. This ideological person is because of Smallville, because it sure isn't about Jor-El, because Jor-El is cold. He's cold. He's not emotional. I mean, he doesn't even send anything in that spaceship about Kal-El's mom. It's all about me and what I will teach you, and and that kind of stuff. Nothing about the mom. Screw the mom. She was just there as a birth giver, and that's about it. And so I really liked that. And I like, and this to me, unlike modern day times, you have Superman set in the 50s, which again sets up the ideals of Superman. He is not Batman. This to me, in movie terms, is the origins of Captain America in the Marvel Universe, where you have a pure guy who has pure meanings, pure thoughts, who's always going to do the right thing no matter what. That's what this Superman was. That Superman doesn't exist in the Man of Steel and the other Supermans. The pure of heart type of Superman, to me, doesn't exist in the modern tellings.
So I have a question, and this is something that I didn't really understand. Metropolis is based on New York City, right?
Correct.
So is Metropolis in New York City, or is Metropolis in California? In this movie, New York
City.
Because I was confused about this.
Because Perry White talks about how he sent Lois Lane out west for a story.
Gotcha.
So
I remember him saying
because I was confused also at first. I was
it's supposed to be, or maybe New York City. It's not located, but it's on the East Coast.
It's the good.
It's over there.
It's the good part of New York City, where Gotham is the bad part of New York City. Basically,
I always thought Gotham was Chicago.
Really?
No, Gotham's New York.
No, I'm just kidding. Although
wow.
the Gotham in Dark Knight, it literally just looks like Chicago.
Yeah. No.
But
I mean, this Metropolis is Manhattan, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be the fancy. I mean, you see the Empire State Building in there, so I mean, again, like I said, I think in the comics
at the end of the day,
they are
Metropolis
separate. They are real close
city.
to each other.
I mean, it's its own city. It's not meant to be New York. Well, yes, it's based off New York, and obviously they have to have a real life place to film it at. But it didn't.
Well, I mean, I was just confused because I think in my mind I was thinking this is like Metropolis, New York, and then all of a sudden we're at the San Andreas fault line. You know.
Well, when you can travel at the speed of a jet, you can get there pretty quickly.
Even though it took them a while to figure that out as we got along. Yeah. Another thing, okay, we have neglected this every single movie, and I'm bound to determine not to neglect this. This is our 5th movie with a John Williams score. Yeah. And by Jinkies, we're not going to not mention him. And I slap myself every time we've done a movie and we haven't really gone into John Williams. Again, we have done Star Wars, Superman, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jurassic Park, and The Patriot that all have a John Williams score. And if you have a movie that has a John Williams score, you automatically have a star. It doesn't matter how bad the movie is. You have a star because John Williams is a star.
He is. I'm saying he is the king of making memorable movie lines or memorable movie scores. Okay, I mean you get the you get Superman's his big one, the da 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 da. You know, you get that whole thing. You get the Harry Potter Hedwig's thing. You get the Star Wars thing. You know, the Jurassic Park one that he did. Mm-hmm. Now, all of these movies that he's done, you have such a memorable score from him. And I can remember that's one of the other things that I'm glad you brought this up. I remember in high school band playing the Superman theme and seeing the John Williams and stuff like that. And I'd be honest, I didn't realize John Williams was as old as he is. I thought he was a lot younger than what he is.
Well, he's got stuff that he did in the 50s. So I mean, he's like
he's pretty up there.
He's the crypt keeper almost right now.
He was born in 1930. He's 93 years old.
That's old.
Well, Superman, also marketed as Superman the Movie, is a 1978 superhero film based on DC Comics featuring the famous character played by Christopher Reeve. It is the first of 4 installments on the superhero film franchise starring Reeve as Superman. The film was directed by Richard Donner, based on a screenplay by Mario Puzo, David Newman, Leslie Newman, and Robert Benton. The film features an ensemble cast including Marlon Brando, Gene Hackman, Jeff East, Margot Kidder, Glenn Ford, Phyllis Thaxter, Jackie Cooper, Trevor Howard, Mark McClure, Terrence Stamp, Valerie. You know what? I'm just going to stop right there.
Perrine. We're just going to cut out the last 5 or 6 people.
Yeah, because that's way too many. It wasn't that on. It wasn't that ensemble. It depicts the origin of Superman, including his infancy as Kal-El on Krypton, son of Jor-El, and his youthful years in the rural town of Smallville. Disguised as a reporter, Clark Kent, he adopts a mild-mannered disposition in Metropolis and develops a romance with Lois Lane while battling the villainous Lex Luthor. Most expensive film made up to that point, with a budget of $55 million, Superman premiered at the Kennedy Center, Washington, D.C. on December 10th, 1978, and was released in the United Kingdom on December 14th and in the United States on December 15th. The film was a critical and financial success, grossing over $300 million, and is the second highest grossing release of that year. It received praise for Reeve's performance and John Williams' music score, and was nominated for Best Film Editing, Best Music, Best Sound, and received a Special Achievement Academy Award for Visual Effects. I'm having a very tough time tonight.
Well, it's a good thing you're a writer, huh?
As you can tell, I don't know. Apparently, I can't read or speak.
He writes. He doesn't speak.
That's why I'm saying it's a good thing he's a writer.
Something you mentioned.
That's why we make cash on this podcast. Yeah. It's all about our pronunciation and our voices because we're smooth.
I butchered about 75% of those words I just spoke. That's why I stopped reading those names because especially before I got to Jack O'Halloran.
No, Lord. You also missed that this was added to the National Film Registry in 2017. I don't know what significant.
It's two very long paragraphs.
You can hand this over to Dakota if he's going to critique your style.
I wasn't critiquing. I was just pointing it out.
I do the hosting. I read all this stuff. I do the editing. You two.
You're doing a fantastic job, Caleb. I want to tell you, no matter what Dakota has said about what you're doing a fantastic job.
Dakota's like, I posted to YouTube where we have people listen to 6 seconds of it
once a month.
But to go all the way back to what you said earlier, Christopher Reeve is really good in this film, and as I was watching it. Look, there's no sugarcoating it. The disguise of Superman will always be one of the dumbest in anything in comics. I mean, just taking off your glasses and thinking that people wouldn't know who you are is but it's comics. It is what it is. But part of that, it's not just taking off the glasses. When he's Clark Kent, he affects a mild-mannered personality. And I think as a kid or growing up, I didn't really respect that part of it. I was like, he's just taking her off his glasses. But actually seeing him as Clark Kent in this, I could see there is some believableness with the way he acts as Clark Kent, this kind of goofball that you wouldn't believe that this man could be Superman just with the way he acts. He does a fantastic job. I think he does a better job as Clark Kent than he does as Superman.
So, one, physically, he did do something other than glasses. When we're in the scene, when we're at Lois Lane's apartment, and you can see him when he walks into the apartment, he is slunched over and he has made himself smaller. And that part, because again, at first I didn't notice that much, but then whenever she goes away and he takes his glasses off and he stands up straight and he throws the shoulders back, I was like, oh, so he is playing this different. It's not just I got a curl in my hair, I don't have a curl in my hair, I have glasses, don't have glasses in my hair. He does a real good job of and when he's in that debate, he goes from Clark Kent rolled shoulders, Superman standing up straight, back to Clark Kent rolled shoulders again. And I thought that's what I thought was really impressive. Also, I like his Superman's the way he looks as Superman, because he's not Henry Cavill, who I like Henry Cavill's version of Superman, but Henry Cavill is 0% body fat and all muscles. Does Superman have to be that way? It's kind of like, or is it his powers? He doesn't have to be shredded. And that's one of those things with Superman. He doesn't. He's an alien. He doesn't have to be shredded to be this, even though he put on weight, because I think they said, again, he's 6'4", and I think before the movie he was like 185 pounds, and they had put more weight on him. He said he was 225 in the movie, but I don't know. But I kind of like the fact that, again, you don't get him as a monster-looking dude. I mean, Henry Cavill, good gravy. That dude is just muscles that have muscles. And again, I like his version of it, but but he doesn't get. I guess I'm kind of like the old-fashioned part of this Superman is, even Superman is polite to the bad guys, which goes back again to me that Smallville type of mentality.
Ferg, do you have a man crush on Henry Cavill or Cavill or however you say his name?
Dude, I tell you this. That one scene in Mission Impossible where he jacks those arms, I'm like, dude, come on, let's go. Let's see. I want to see you. I want to see you rough somebody up. I want to see you throw arms. And then I got the midget. You get the midget Tom Cruise would be best. So I'm like, no, sorry, nah. Henry Cavill just go and you're gone. No, I'm sorry, Tom Cruise.
Size and muscles aren't everything.
No, when you jack them arms like he did, and he was cocking the guns with those arms, son. He was ready to roll.
Well, on the planet Krypton, Jor-El, a member of the Kryptonian High Council, sentences criminals General Zod, Non, and Ursa to the Phantom Zone. He warns the council that Krypton will be destroyed by its exploding red supergiant sun, but they dismiss his concerns. Before the planet's destruction, Jor-El and his wife Laura send their baby son Kal-El to Earth, where his unique physiology grants him evolving superhuman abilities. Kal-El's spaceship touches down near Smallville, Kansas, found by Jonathan and Martha Kent, who are astonished when the infant lifts their truck. They adopt infant. They adopt him, naming Clark as he grows, hiding his powers. Jonathan believes Clark was sent to Earth for a special purpose. Kid wasn't no infant. It's like 3 years old, at least. But no, so we go all the way back to the beginning. Actually, let's back up here. The film opens up with, as you mentioned, John Williams' score, and which, by the way, I love the theme song. I had it in my head all day yesterday, as I told you guys. But that opening credit scene was, as I think Dakota said, 6 minutes and 44 seconds. Every single person that worked on that movie got their name on that, and it wasn't like let's put a few names like together. Like no, like everybody's getting their own name on here. I have never seen an opening credit scene that long.
And it's in high quality 70s zoom in and zoom back out. Bold faced outlined, But was that before the 1938 movie scroll? You know how they start? I thought it started off in the movie theater at first before it went to the credits. I thought I can't remember.
I don't know it, but it's in there. Either way, it's 6 minutes and 44 seconds before we actually get to the movie.
Good Lord, you're talking about, like I said, it was the producer's dog that was listed in the list of credits.
Everybody. It was one of those things where I started, like, it popped up and I saw a few of the names popped up and I was like, well, let me just look at a notification on my phone. And then like 3 minutes went by and I looked up and I was still watching credits and I was like, I think they wanted everybody to get recognition here,
I mean, you're enjoying that song, but then halfway through you're like, all right, that's enough of that. Let me just fast forward this.
Oh, I did. I clicked the button a few times. and then it landed on 6 minutes and 44 seconds and I was like, oh, here we go.
But then, like, as I mentioned earlier, we open with the scene with Zod, which I don't know if I said this at the beginning of the podcast or off the podcast. When it came up, I thought that I accidentally clicked on Superman 2. So I was very confused because I didn't remember this part, and I don't understand why it's in this movie. I don't understand what it brings to this movie.
Well, didn't you say that they recorded them both at the same time?
Yeah, they did.
And it was like a little bit. It could have just been a little bit of
this. Why put that? I just don't like. I don't.
Well, I mean, if you already know what the second movie is going to be, and you're going to foreshadow into the second movie, because when that happened and that took place, because I haven't seen Superman 2, and I looked at my friend who I was watching it with, and I said, they're going to have something important come up in the movie. Turns out they didn't have anything to do with this movie whatsoever. But I was like, they have some important role to play in this movie.
Yeah, so I think. Well, hold on. Let's go. First of all, since when do you watch movies with other friends besides me? I'm very heartbroken.
Like I told you last week, we have a friend staying with us for a few days while he finds somewhere to live.
Well, that was last week. You said a few days. That's a week.
He had to find a job first, okay?
You've been sick. He's not going to bring you over the house to get people sick, so don't go there.
Let's go back to what you just said. Think back to you're watching this in 1978. You're like, those people are going to have something to do with the end of the movie, and then they just don't.
Yeah, there's nothing
to do. You don't know that there's going to be a second movie?
All right. So, no, let's rewind. If you're watching this in 1978, you don't care about Zod. You are seeing Marlon Brando. They are on screen to give Marlon Brando. Again, you've paid $3.5 million for Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando's the number one name on the poster. This is so you can get Marlon Brando in the movie. That's the major purpose for this. Yes, it helps the second movie, but this is so you can get more Brando time. Because, I mean, good Lord, you're paying that much money. You might as well milk. Why do you think we get 24 minutes in Krypton? That's why we get it. So you can get your money out of Brando.
Yeah, and then we get him in front of the council. He's like trying to tell them the planet's going to be destroyed, and they're like, "Oh no, it's fine." And then it shows the planet, and the sun is like right there. On top of it.
He promised that he wouldn't leave. I took that as you're not going to leave early. But hello, as soon as you send Kal-El gone, then the planet's dying. Just get on another ship and go with him.
There are countless theories, fan theories, or whatever about why he didn't leave. None of them really make like just 100% True, yes. I mean, like, if you can build this for your son, like, why not just build it? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Also, if he predicted it this far in advance, he's cut it kind of close. I mean, that planet is coming to is being destroyed. Well, okay, now let's send our son.
I will tell you. Go ahead. No, go ahead, because I'm gonna change direction.
No, but he also predicted Einstein, I think, before Einstein was even, because he spent how many thousands of years or whatever. I mean, I know that human years are so many years, but yeah, I mean, when we started was 1938, and then when it looked like Superman or Kal-El got to Earth, it looked like it was in the 50s. So Jor-El is, he's omnipotent and omnipresent.
Yeah. So the one thing that I did like about this though was the openings, like before you get to this whole like jury trial court thing or whatever that he gets to it. It is the pan into Krypton or Kryptone or whatever, however they pronounced it. It's one of those that you looked at it, you could tell like, okay, they made a little miniature model and they're like zooming in with the camera, but I love that. I love the practical effects leading into that, and to a certain extent to me, I've really realized how much I miss that watching some of these older movies and seeing some of these effects. Like I really miss that.
Like the dam breaking too, and all the you have the miniatures and stuff like that. It is kind of cool to go, hey man, that is pretty cool. I mean, because you think back to like Star Wars and all the stuff that they did with that too. Yes, it is kind of campy, but I mean, sometimes it looks better than the computer generated junk that you get.
Yeah, I think there is definitely some. I wrote down there were some effects in this that I really loved, but there was also some that I didn't. Let's get into that in this next paragraph. Soon after Jonathan's fatal heart attack, a glowing green crystal from his spaceship that is hidden in the barn calls to Clark. This leads to him to the Arctic, where a fortress of solitude, echoing Krypton's architecture, ascends from the ice. Inside, Jor-El's hologram reveals Clark's heritage and trains him for 12 years, emerging in a blue and red suit bearing the crest of the House of El. He is cautioned against changing human history. So we do get the to go back. We get the teenage Clark in Smallville, and obviously he's going through the challenges of hiding his powers when he doesn't want to. He can score a touchdown every play if he just uses his powers. So it's a tough situation. We see him running.
Yep. I was about to talk about this.
Oh my goodness, the effects of him running are so bad. Even for 1978, I couldn't even let it go. They're so bad.
And then the jump too that he across the railroad tracks was just as bad.
Look,
too.
The jump across the railroad tracks, and then he stops within 10 feet. Look, I don't know if you know Newton's law of inertia, okay? But an object in motion wants to stay in motion. I feel like if he was going that fast and tried to stop, he's not stopping that quick, okay?
Okay, this is Superman. Are we really going to argue?
I was say
physics?
Newton's Superman.
No, I get that. But look, I'm telling you,
fly.
it that bothered me. And then he runs up to his dad's truck, same tire, it's flat. 15 years later, and he still hasn't fixed the tire.
Just keep throwing the donut on there. It'll be all right. But, I mean, go back to the running. We're supposed to be hiding our powers. He's just running next to this passenger train where anybody can turn and look and see him. And he's got this grin on his face. And I'm just running.
Well, that's why he wants to show off every now and then.
I guess this is the 50s. I mean, it's not like you can take a video and post it on social media. Plus, and if you don't have video of it, who's going to believe that this man was just running right next to the train?
You know what he looked like? Have you ever seen those videos of those dogs? Like, they get the treadmill for the dog in the apartment because they can't let the dog out to run. And they hook the dog to, like, the harness to the dog, and they just let the dog sit there and run in place. That's what this looked like. That's what him running looked like.
Yeah, I don't know what effect they used for this, but it's absolutely terrible. I mean,
they had to hang him from a harness and just let him start running. Just act like you're running. It's exactly what it looked, because you had the Twilight like just gliding across the top of the ground type of run on it. Okay,
Twilight.
So then we get where his dad dying, which is much less dramatic than it was in Man of Steel, which I also
Ooh,
watched last night.
no, I thoroughly disagree. Because again, here you go. This is, to me, I mean, the part in Man of Steel, is no, don't save me, don't show your powers, and again, it has to be something big. It doesn't have to be something big. To me, this is more emotional. Having your father have a heart attack right then and there while he's racing you, because again, not everything has to be cataclysmic to be emotional or to be a movement. I like this version because again, this dad also wants him to save the world, to show there's going to be a time where you have to show yourself, whereas Kevin Costner's version was always no, we don't save anybody, because if you save this one thing, something else can happen. That was him. I didn't think the one in Man of Steel was emotional at all.
I think you misunderstood what I said. I just meant it wasn't as dramatic. I didn't mean, I completely agree with everything you just said. I just meant on the screen it wasn't as dramatic as Kevin Costner putting his hand out. No, don't save me. You know what I mean? Like I meant like that, like drama. I mean, he has a heart attack. It just kind of falls over. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, it's emotional. I mean, this is a turning point for him as Superman. So yeah, it's emotional. But then after that happens, he goes and finds the green crystal, and then he goes and talks to his mom like he's never going to see her again.
Well, then he also went on his Buddy the Elf walkabout in the North Pole. That's what it looked like when he got up there. I mean, when he got to the North Pole, tell me that didn't look like I was waiting for a narwhal to say, "Hey, Kal-El." That's what it looked like to me. I mean, you can guess. I hate you. I mean, okay, so. Did the green crystal grow the Fortress of Solitude?
Yeah, isn't he like allergic to kryptonite or something?
This isn't
evidently it's not kryptonite because it's not a meteor.
This isn't kryptonite.
That's why I was with you.
A completely separate green crystal. Yeah, I guess we couldn't make it any other
color. It's a good
color.
Green crystal.
Yeah. I was confused about it. Which I think we should mention.
Isn't he allergic to kryptonite?
How else are you going to describe it? How else are you going to? It weakens his body and kills him. Isn't that what something that somebody is allergic to does? It weakens their body and kills them.
Like you're allergic to pollen. So I mean that's your kryptonite right there.
Which is also green, apparently. So
that produces Superman, green.
Confirmed.
It's
not. Yeah. I think it's also important to mention we're 45 minutes into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
45 minutes into this movie at this moment. This is the longest origin story I think I've probably ever seen in a movie, establishing to Superman, and there's been really no action. There's been nothing.
They said we need an origin story, and whatever the word was in 1978, but in 2025 they said bet, and that way
they made it. They made it.
But yeah, as you said, 47 minutes in, we finally see Christopher Reeve. At least the first time you see him, it's in the suit. So I guess
for
there's
6 seconds we get to see him fly off.
Yeah,
and then poof, we're in Metropolis.
Also, like, why did it take 12 years to train him? Liam Neeson taught Batman in way less the time.
Because even off screen, I guess they had to give Marlon Brando time to talk too. I mean, and plus his face looked like the Wizard of Oz, kind of showing up. I was like, golly, I mean, you're really going to spook this kid out the way you got all this stuff, and also have seizures because the light started blinking left and right. I was like, golly, I mean, I'm surprised that Superman ain't just that crazy after this.
I feel like if it takes you 12 years to teach Superman how to be Superman, you're not a very good teacher.
Yeah, it's more telling of your teaching abilities.
You're just naturally stronger, and to everybody on Earth, you're invulnerable to everything. You can fly. I mean, it seems like some of it would be self-taught. Like he should.
So I guess he's a genius now, because Dad was a genius. I mean, it's like listening to that one professor who likes to hear his voice. and he just rambles on for an hour. You're just sitting there. He doesn't say anything. He's just rambling on, because all the stuff he said was like, okay, I mean, okay, we know this stuff,
Yeah, well, when he shows up at the Daily Planet, they're like, we had to hire him. He's the fastest writer, and he can type longer. And I'm like, when has he been here? He's been out in the Arctic for 12 years. How do you like? But anyways, as I said, Clark is hired as a reporter for the Daily Planet in Metropolis. He is drawn to Lois Lane after saving her from a helicopter accident. Clark secretly uses his powers in public acts of heroism, gaining immediate fame as the Caped Wonder. Perry White, the Daily Planet's chief, seeks more information on this new hero. In costume, Clark later visits Lois, taking her on a flight, leading her to coin his name, Superman. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is probably when we get to see Reeve as Clark Kent. He does absolute amazing job. Just the bumblingness and the Lois. And we also get to see Lois Lane for the first time, right?
Yeah. Again, which I loved Margot Kidder's version of Lois Lane because she played damsel in distress a lot, but I still didn't feel like she wasn't one of those helpless like damsels. I mean, she was damsel in distress because she was in a helicopter that was about to crash, about to fall over, and also in the middle of that earthquake. But she was not like Princess Buttercup in Princess Bride. Margot Kidder was smart. She was whip smart. She was she had a fast tongue, and she was ready to stand up to the guy that was trying to hold him up. It was Clark that was kind of trying to protect her and hold her off at that time. But I liked her portrayal, and to me, again, this movie, you get the archetype of Superman, you get the archetype of Lois Lane, you get the archetype of Krypton. Even though Krypton in the beginning of the cartoon of the comics was a lush planet, now all of a sudden it's got this icy feel to it, and so that's one of those things that I really liked about and Jimmy Olsen too. I think was it became a kind of an archetype, but I liked the way they worked together, and she was just like, you idiot type of thing, and even when people weren't looking, like in the elevator, he pressed the button, he was going to get in the elevator. People got in the elevator, he couldn't get it. He goes to the next elevator, and the guy says it's going up, and he's like, what do I do? So you talk about having to be on your mind to act in the whole entire time. So that dude's brain's got to be hurting to act like Clark Kent all the time.
He does that, but then also later he just randomly, while people is in the office, just opens the window and jumps out and turns into Superman. No idea where his suit goes, and because he does it in midair. So like it's so we get what you're talking about, but then at the same time, when later we get Stephen's like, okay, come on now, they don't make nobody would see him jump out the window.
Which I did like the when they got the payphone, because in the olden times he went into a phone booth and he changed, and he went up there to it, and it was just a phone, it wasn't a phone booth, and so he had to go find somewhere else. But yet again, where does he change? He just goes and spins around.
That being said, the scene where he pulls back his dress shirt and you see the emblem, that's pure movie magic. That's great. I mean, that's something that you wait an hour to see.
Yeah, that because that was the iconic. You still see people recreating that today. You still see people doing that. That's what I was going to bring up. I did like the fact that they didn't just immediately come out and name him Superman. Yeah. That it took them, getting into this interview with Lois before she actually, named him and went to that. Let me tell you, the thing that bothered me about this interview, and there's a few things that pop up throughout this entire movie that kind of just leave me like, wow, okay, we put a lot of questionable things on the screen back in the 70s, okay? When he looks at her with X-ray vision, and she asks about what color underwear she has on. And I mean, it's like, all right, woman, you're kind of just looking at him and saying, I'm okay. She asked, but she's basically looking at him and saying, I look.
She wants to take Superman.
She is hot to trot.
She is hot. It bothered me because I'm just sitting there like, okay, like, you kind of just set the precedent, which I think it goes back to what Ernie said, that he's just a good old boy. He's a good dude who's honest and true all the way through, that this guy can kind of just look at whoever he wants to and nobody would know. And he doesn't do it, unless he's asked to.
Exactly. He was asked to, so he did.
But when
it does not break his morals at all.
But when they get in this flight, and they're flying around the city, okay? Which the flying, I understand it's the 70s. It's the flying isn't that great to begin with, but whatever. It is what it is, okay? But when they're flying and he holds her out with one hand, okay? Sure, he can hold her up however he wants to. He's strong. He's Superman, okay? Whatever. How is she holding herself up? Because she's holding up her entire body weight by her fingertips.
This is a perfect time to start talking about gravity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I started thinking the same thing. How are her legs not dangling? I mean, especially, when he's holding her by one finger, I was like, how is he not breaking every bone in her body to keep her, in plank position,
Yeah. She is holding up her entire body weight by her fingertips. Granted, if she, let's say she's a 150-pound woman, okay, whatever she is, that's 150 pounds on her fingertips, right? Come on here, come on. I had a lot of issues with that.
So I like this point in time because now we start to get the crimes starting to happen, And I like the Batman TV callback when the cat burglar who's got the suction cups on his hands that he has to press the buttons on, but the knees he doesn't have to. He just but he's going on there, and you can see it happen. That the camera's turned sideways, and Superman's just sitting there waiting on them like that. I was like, okay, that's a good callback to Batman TV show. But I don't know if y'all caught this though, and I had to rewind it to make sure I caught it though. When he saved the cat, and the little girl goes inside and tells her mom about a flying man saving her cat. Mom says, "Stop lying." And then you hear
oh, yeah.
So she slapped her kid for lying. I was like, wait a minute, did I hear that? And I was like, and that literally made me chuckle, because she just got slapped because she was lying.
She'd be lying too much.
And I think this is my biggest issue with the movie is I think at this point, because I was kind of keeping up with the time tracks of where everything was. This is like an hour 30, hour 40 into the movie or something like that. And you finally get the superhero montage of him going around the city and saving people. I feel like this should have been much earlier in the movie. Because and then realistically, like this is when I sit down and watch a superhero movie. Like this is what I'm looking for is the superhero action. I'm not, it's just to me the movie has taken way too long to get to this point, showing what Superman is actually capable of on Earth.
That's what happens when you get Marlon Brando on the payroll. As already said.
Apparently.
But I agree to a certain extent. I think the Krypton stuff was needed. I think the Smallville stuff was needed. I don't think it needed as much, but because I think that makes the reveal of Superman, granted, it shouldn't have been an hour and 10 minutes into the movie, but I think that makes the reveal of Superman that much better. Now, again, it didn't need to be. I don't have a problem with them taking their time telling the story. I have a problem with them taking so much time telling the story. But again, I understand because like y'all said, what is the most iconic thing from this movie? It's him coming out and him pulling his shirt out and having that S. If you get that in the first 10 minutes of the movie without anything, I don't think it shines as much as it is. Now, again, I agree with y'all. Hour 10 minutes before you get that moment, too long a time. I think you could probably do it 35 minutes, 40 minutes, because again, this story wasn't all about action, power punch, because there wasn't a lot of fighting per se at all in this movie.
There was very minimal, if any at all.
Because really, I mean, if we're fighting, everybody's going to lose. Until you get Lex Luthor, who haven't even talked about Gene Hackman yet. So I mean, It's just I don't know. It was very interesting. Then also in this point in time, also thought we were in the middle of a disaster movie. With the helicopter and the Air Force One, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the bad '70s disaster movies, like Towering Inferno, Poseidon Adventure. I said, this is exactly what it feels like.
See, the thing, I have no issue with the first, like everything leading up to this point. I really don't have a problem with everything that was going on up to there. My problem is there was so much like stuff that was edited, like that was just it's fluff that didn't really need to be there. Yeah. Like the flying scene between him and her, that was like a full 5 minutes of them flying around. I mean, a minute maybe.
Yeah, they didn't need to have his arm around her. Then him holding his arm, then her holding her tricep, then holding her elbow. I mean, it didn't work all the way down to the finger. We get that. I agree with that. That had some fluff to it.
And there was a lot of scenes leading up to this point that were like that. I mean, it just like the train and him running across the field or whatever. That there were so many scenes leading up to this that were unnecessarily long, that could have been cut. And I mean, when you're cutting 30 seconds to a minute off of all these scenes, you end up saving 20 minutes of the movie that didn't need to be in there.
But then you don't have a 2.5 hour movie. Oh.
Well, criminal mastermind Lex Luthor discovers a joint U.S. Army, U.S. Navy missile test and plots to target the San Andreas Fault with reprogrammed missiles, though one is misdirected by his bumbling assistant Otis. Suspecting Superman's interference, Lex identifies a Kryptonian meteorite lethal to Superman. With Otis and his girlfriend Eve Teschmacher leave, Lex retrieves it and traps Superman in his lair, revealing his plan to sink the western U.S., making his desert land prime coastline. He weakens Superman using his meteor, now known as Kryptonite, and informs him of the misdirected missile set for Hackensack, New Jersey. So, as Ernie mentioned, this is the first time we've actually talked about Lex Luthor and Gene Hackman. Because again,
an hour and 45 minutes into the movie,
he doesn't show up till we get late into the movie. Ernie, I feel like you're a Gene Hackman guy. You like his portrayal as Lex?
I don't know.
It's not my favorite.
I really don't. Again, to me, well, compare him to the other Lex Luthors. This is the best Lex Luthor. I'm sorry.
I actually like.
Don't say Jesse Eisenberg.
I didn't mind it. I didn't think it was that bad.
Oh, God, he was god awful.
I didn't think it was bad. But I mean, it's still not great. I mean, I'm hoping the new Superman we finally get a great Lex Luthor.
That's Lost in America awful. That's what that's Jesse Eisenberg. That's how I feel about that performance. But again, I don't know. It was an interesting performance by Hackman. Because to me, this movie was set up at the very beginning when it in that movie theater when it said Action Comics. So this is basing this Superman off of the early comics, and I think you might get a more campy version of Lex Luthor, Otis, and Miss Teschmacher. It is a campy version of. It's not the modern Lex Luthor that we get, that we have gotten in our comics and things of that nature, who is much more sinister. Even though Hackman did play it at points sinister, like when he pushed that one cop out in front of the train. So I mean, there was that time, but overall, he still. This is probably the best example. He was a Bond villain. That's what his plan was, a Bond villain plan. His toupee was Bond villain. I mean, everything that he had was it seemed like a Roger Moore Bond villain. But again, I like Gene Hackman. I like some of the things he did. I just don't know how I feel about the part.
I think if you get rid of the bumbling assistant, it would have made it a little bit better.
Yeah, again, that's where. But again, Ned Beatty. I mean, Ned Beatty's a big name too, and that's. Golly, again, I don't know. I just don't understand. I don't know how I feel about that. And when I don't know how I feel about it, then I don't necessarily like it.
And also, I just didn't like. I mean, Lex Luthor is supposed to be the smartest man on Earth, and how he couldn't predict that when a missile was headed directly for his assistant where her mother lives. how she wouldn't betray him, I don't. I mean, that's it. Like as soon as you like, she's like, my mother's in Hackensack. Uh, in his head, that should have been like, okay, I don't need to let her by herself.
Well, I mean, why is he aiming at Hackensack, New Jersey? Anyway?
Well, he did. He didn't aim it there. Otis did. Remember, he messed up the.
Oh,
so it's just going there. So yeah, I mean, it's not like he purposely aimed it there, but I mean, you would think, being the smartest man on earth, that like, hey, she might betray me and goes free Superman.
Well,
I guess sit in this room and watch this on this weird video board.
Well, he was using all his brain powers to somehow figure out this meteorite kryptonite.
Don't get me started on this. That's so stupid.
Somehow is the weakness of Superman.
Yeah. Okay. We just skipped. That's like math when the teachers tell you have to show your work. You can't just write the correct answer. I mean, that's like yes, he arrived at the correct answer, but he showed no work to know how we got there. It's just like, hey, I showed. He shows this picture. He's like, this has to, and he just somehow surmises this is Superman's weakness.
All from this one article that
he like didn't even know existed. Less than a week ago?
Yeah. I gotta go to Addis Ababa to go get this.
and don't get me wrong, like, I mean, I can kind of give it to him if he's like, hey, there was an unusually high number of meteorites that came down in 1951 when this guy got to Earth, and supposedly that, I mean, I can give him some stuff on that, but like that kind of bothered me. But I'll tell you personally, I really kind of liked Lex Luthor. It kind of gave like the mad evil genius type of thing.
Yeah.
And it just, to me, it really, I liked it, and it kind of showed the cold heartedness and those two things that he really stepped up in. There were a couple scenes here that kind of maybe just kind of, like the whole CPR thing and some comments that were made, and then the about face, and I'm just like, okay, well, that's that was what it was.
We are talking about the 70s, so I mean.
Yeah, I know, but I was just, and then the whole like, she's going to take the kryptonite off of his neck, and then she's like, you know what? Let me stop and put it back on, kiss him real quick, and then take it off. And then he's like, why'd you do that? And she's like, well, you wouldn't have let me done it afterwards. And he's like, okay, fair point. You might want to move.
You're right. I looked at some woman's underwear, so
yeah, I'm like, come on, man.
Don't forget a movie that came out the same year. A girl was kind of getting hot and heavy over a guy who was wearing a Michael mask, and she was ready to rock and roll with a guy that was wearing a Michael's mask.
Yeah.
So again, people in the 70s just were a little more freaky deaky than I guess we are right now. Just a little.
There's a lot higher drug use in this time frame.
100%.
I forget. I might have missed this, but did he not promise her that he was going to go for the missile that was headed towards New Jersey first?
Yeah, I think he did.
He
did? Okay.
It was just very difficult to... That was the one that he pushed up, I guess, because the other one landed. The other one in California
it went into
landed.
the fault. Yeah, it went to the fault.
Well, also, before we continue, just so Ernie doesn't disown me, I was not saying that Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal was good. I just don't think it's as bad as people like Ernie think it is.
In fairness, I don't like Jesse Eisenberg. There hasn't been anything that I can think of.
Oh,
I haven't seen The Social Network. What?
Have you seen Now You See Me?
Yeah, I still thought he was the worst part of the Magician of the Four Horsemen. So, yeah. Seriously, the way he talks and someone's all over them. No, I'm sorry. No, you're not Jimmy Stewart. So stop stuttering all over yourself and thinking that you're a good actor. No.
To be fair, seeing interviews with the actor, I think that is more of his actual personality than it is him attempting to act in any way, shape, or form.
Just why he does a great job playing Mark Zuckerberg in the Social Network.
Exactly.
Which I have not seen, but I've heard that he is good in that, which, I mean, it hits it pretty good there. One thing I like about, going back to Lex Luthor, is the wigs, the toupees the different toupees that he wore throughout the whole entire thing. I like stupid little stuff like that. And I also like stuff when I'm thinking in my head that the actors say it. When Otis brings his robe, when he's getting out of the pool, and he puts it on him, and it's getting wet, and then Hackman turns to him and said, "Next time, Otis, wait till I get out of the pool before you give me my robe." I was like, finally. I was like, you're acknowledging the stupidity that's going on right here.
Yeah, I really could have done without Otis. I mean, but I guess it's, superhero movies back then were a little bit more campy. I mean, obviously
you have to have a henchman too. I mean,
yeah,
it could have been a little bit different. I guess
that was a thing back in the day. You have like stupid henchmen. Like, I mean, having a bumbling henchman, like if Lex Luthor has a bumbling henchman like that in this movie that's coming out in July, it's not going to go over well.
No. Well, I do like when the henchman screws up, he ends up with a black eye in the next scene. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. You're an idiot. So there you go, black eye.
Well, concerned for her mother in Hackensack, Teschmacher frees Superman, who could see that coming, urging him to first stop the eastbound missile. He sends it to space, but misses the westbound missile, which triggers severe earthquakes in California, endangering landmarks like the Golden Gate Bridge and Hoover Dam. Superman counteracts the devastation by mending the fault line. As Superman rescues others, Lois is trapped in her car by an aftershock, suffocating before he can save her. Distraught and enraged over his failure to save Lois, Superman disregards Jor-El's warning against altering history. Heeding Jonathan's belief in his purpose, he flies around Earth, reversing time to prevent Lois's death and the missile's destruction. After saving the West Coast, he imprisons Luthor and Otis, then soars into the sunrise. Yeah, I mean, to go back to what Ernie said, I mean, there's not very much action in this, and for a superhero movie, it's just not like a fun final act. I mean, it just is what it is.
You're preventing a natural disaster. Well, I mean,
oh yeah, there's the third part of our natural disaster movie. It didn't feel like it fit with the movie, to be honest. The only thing that was kind of redeeming I thought about it is to compare it to Man of Steel. Whenever his dad died and he gave out that scream, this is here when Lois dies, he lets out this human scream, this one thing, the one person that, he's already lost his dad. And, that was the only thing that was kind of redeeming about this. I mean, but the rest of it was just, I mean, like running out of gas past the gas station, it explodes, just the Native American talking about selling his land that he has to some rich guy when she was interviewing him, I was like, I didn't know a bunch of Native Americans owned land around the Hoover Dam, but
But to go back to your point about how it didn't fit, again, that maybe that has because they, like I said, they filmed the first one and the second one at the same time. They had filmed most of this one and they'd filmed 75% of the second one. Then they had a falling out, so they changed directors, and then they had to go back and finish the first one. So you don't know. I don't know exactly, what the plan was way before they changed directors. I mean, or anything like that. But still, I mean, yeah. I mean, and look, it's 1978. I mean, 1978 is just not. It's not the time for I mean, this was superhero movies at this time were just way before their time. They need the. And while it is cool when you go back and see the practical effects and stuff, superhero movies for the most part need the CGI era that we're in. I mean, that's just the way it is. But at the same time, I mean, I feel like you could come up with a little something better than this, a little bit more exciting.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. But you need Lois's for this two movies, and I won't give too much away for Dakota. You need Lois's death, and you need the changing the Earth spin. So
I mean, you can have that and still give us something a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like the Golden Gate Bridge, we saved the bus, but we did nothing with the guide wires that snapped off. I was like, okay,
is this a hot take? Going back to what we said, it takes way too long to get to Christopher Reeve's Superman and then the saving everything. I think we all agree on that, but at the same time, I found myself more engaged in the first half of the movie than I did the second half.
I would take,
especially this third act. Yes. At this point, I had to take Nash somewhere, my son. So at this point, I'm getting him ready and stuff, and I'm like kind of half paying attention to what's going on in this final act.
Give me less at the end. Give me less in the beginning. Give me more of the Superman Lois Clark part, because to me that was the most fun. Is watching Lois and Clark interact with each other, and then watching Lois bumble all over herself talking to Superman. I was like, I enjoyed that. Like the balcony scene. The balcony scene might be the best part of the movie, just because they're bubbling all over it. She's bubbling all over herself, and then you get Clark Kent coming in, who's bubbling all over himself. Take away the flying scene. I like that. I like that more than most of the movie. So I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of trimming that could have been done. There could have been a focus on some different things, and and nowadays you wouldn't start off this first Superman with Lex Luthor, because the biggest of all the biggest bads. I mean, I guess you did with Batman and having Joker right off the bat, but I don't know. I don't know.
Again, that was not to your point. If you're making a Superman movie now, for the first time, I mean, they did Man of Steel. It is Zod, whereas Zod is in technically he's in this one, but Zod is the main villain of Superman 2. But in Man of Steel, which was kind of the reboot, he's the main villain. It's not there is no Lex Luthor in that one. So. Dakota, do you have anything to say? I feel like we haven't been giving you enough time to talk.
Oh no, it's I mean, there was a few things that I did like about this. I guess the two things that kind of stuck out to me as a utility worker is, as if electric lines fall down, do not get out of your car. Do not drive off. And then the other thing is, I think a lot of people will kind of breeze over the fact of her suffocating in her car in the fault line.
I did not like that.
I didn't either. It is, and we teach this in trench safety and in our safety meetings at work. A lot of people don't realize that if you are covered by dirt like that, and once you get under so much dirt, when you exhale, the dirt presses down on your lungs and will not allow you to inhale again, allowing your lungs to inhale, to expand to be able to inhale. So that is a very likely scenario. Even though it didn't look like a lot of dirt that was covering her up, it is a very likely scenario. And a lot of people don't realize that 1 cubic yard of dirt can be like 2 tons. All right, I think it's 1.5 tons, like 3,000 pounds or something like that. And that's 1 cubic yard of dirt. So PSA, watch out for your trench safety. And if you ever do come around falling electric lines, don't get out of your car.
Dakota reminds me of the.
And knowing is half the battle.
I was just about to say that. I was just going to say Dakota reminds me of those G.I. Joe Transformer commercials where they're like, well, don't play with matches, and knowing is half the battle.
Well, yep. I do it if this saves one person's life.
Me and Ernie are always sometimes like on the same wavelength, which is hilarious because we're like 20 years apart.
Yeah, that's scary for you that you get on my wavelength. I wouldn't want to be on that wavelength very often. I'd jump off of it real fast.
I am my dad's
I wouldn't
son.
jump out of your car. I'd stay in your car so you don't get struck by those wavelengths.
Yeah, I did kind of like the fact that Lois did die. No, just hear me out here. Hear me out here.
Golly. Die,
girl, hear
die.
Me. Well, hear me out, okay? In most of your superhero movies that you're going to have him kiss her on the lips, and all of a sudden she wakes her eyes up or whatever, okay? And I like the fact that
that's a fantasy. You're thinking of Snow White and Cinderella.
Oh my gosh!
What superhero movie has that happened in?
The only other movie that I could think where
X-Men,
the love interest died was Gwen Stacy, and in Spider-Man.
Yeah, but her neck got snapped.
Yeah, her neck got snapped. Okay,
which is comic accurate, by the way.
Yeah,
yeah, but a lot of, I mean, you think of a lot of other superhero movies, the love interest gets hurt, and they might be in the hospital or something, but they live.
X-Men. That's how Rogue helped her. That's how Rogue got brought back with the Chris from Wolverine.
Yeah, if you think love interests don't die, you should really go watch the third X-Men movie.
Yeah, there's no.
Oh boy, I've seen a few X-Men movies, and the first one and some of the later ones.
All right, so that brings us to the movie. Guys, anything you want to add before we go into our rankings?
Do you think this type of Superman, could fly in 2025?
I think we're about to find. Well, what do you? Well, first off,
I don't think James Gunn is going to have this super polite, super idealistic, super pure.
Maybe not to this point, but I think it is going to be more towards. It's not going to be like Henry Cavill's edgy, dark. It's going to be more towards what I expect the character of Superman to be. At least that's the vibes I get from everything, and I've seen like all the trailers. I mean, I'm very excited for this movie, which is funny because growing up I hated Superman. But now here I am in 2025, and it's the most excited I am for a superhero movie probably since Spider-Man: No Way Home.
More than Thunderbolts?
Yeah, more. I'm very excited for Superman.
There was a comment that he made in the interview on the balcony that I completely forgot, that he is America's man or something like that. Or what was it? He said something about being American, and it made me giggle. I'd laugh. Let me tell you, there were some times that Lex Luthor made me laugh in this a lot.
Yes.
Actually.
Well, I mean, that's just Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
I cracked up at him a few times.
But
so I
to
can't
answer
remember
your
what he
question,
said,
no, probably not to this extent. Because Christopher Reeve, I mean, he is the ultimate cookie cutter, perfect American ideology of this era that you want the character. I mean, it's as cookie cutter as it gets.
But Captain America works.
But Captain America also has like that. I mean, kind of that darker side. Like he has I'm hiding the fact that my best friend killed Iron Man's parents. I have like those darker things that he's hiding in his back closet.
And also, while it does work, people watch his movies at the same time. I don't know a lot. I love Captain America, Steve Rogers. But I don't know a lot of people a lot of people I know, they're like, it's Captain America. That's what it is. Yeah. Like he's not even close to their favorite, Avenger or whatever.
And I also think a lot more people, especially in like Civil War, sided with Iron Man rather than they did with Captain America and all that.
Because you're a communist. That's why.
I did not side with Iron Man.
If you side, I'm about to say, you better watch your tongue, sir. Sir.
I've changed a lot. I did when that movie came out. I was definitely Team Iron Man, but then I watched it here recently, and I was like, but I've grown to love Captain America, the character, a lot more. Which is funny because I've also grown to love the character of Superman a lot more.
I still haven't found a comic that I like with Captain America, but as you stated, Captain America in the Marvel movies. Oh yeah, he language. Age of Ultron language. We digress. Not that we ever digress ever in this thing. I mean, there's not rabbit trails that we chase left and right.
Yeah, here we are. Here we are in a DC, and we end up talking about Marvel.
Look, we sit here and talk about how this movie could cut out a lot of fluff, as if we don't add a lot of fluff ourselves. This podcast could be 45 minutes long if we would actually talk about the movies.
Yeah, that's why we're not professionals. Or we could cut this down.
All right, so moving on to the rankings, Dakota, it's your pick. We'll let you go first.
Sure. Let me tell you, this is the first time I've sat down to watch this movie all the way through. I did remember a lot of these scenes, but it's like Ferg said earlier, like the balcony scene, man, that stood out to a lot. And even from when I apparently watched this when I was younger, that scene still stuck out to me because I remember that scene vividly and seeing it. There were some things that I really enjoyed about the movie. Some of the practical effects in it. Some of the acting in it. Personally, I really loved Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor in this. I really wish that, like we talked about earlier, that the middle of the movie had been fleshed out more, because when I'm sitting down to watch a superhero movie, that's what I want. I want him flying around and saving the people and fighting the bad guys and doing things like that. This movie was just a little too drawn out to me, and there's a few too many things that just didn't really add up, in my opinion. And because of that, I think I'm going to give this let me give it a 7 out of 10.
Ernie?
This is one of those movies that I've had to go back on because it's that legacy versus movie idea too, because I think there is a lot of legacy in here. But one of the things we get is, I think the ideal Superman as far as Clark Kent, Superman representation, and the actor that does it. Again, I'm still not sure how I feel about Gene Hackman because part of me likes it, and another part of me like, I don't know. The length of it killed me because again, it starts off slow, it ends kind of And, I think, like we said earlier, I would have liked to see more Clark Kent, Lois Lane, Superman interaction with each other. I'm going to go with 6.75.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you guys have said that I kind of echo, so I probably won't take too long. But yeah, I think there's some issues with this movie. The length, as you guys mentioned, there's not enough time spent in the middle with him saving people and him and Lois and stuff, and then the final act kind of falls flat. But I think the good things is, even though the beginning, the origin part is long, it's still good. I think there's something to be. I mean, yes, it is long, but it is at the same time it is good. So it could be worse. It could be long and bad. And so you could be completely checked out of the movie before you even get to Christopher Reeve as Superman. But I think the biggest thing is Christopher Reeve as Superman. I mean, he absolutely shines in this movie. I think he saves it. And the biggest thing that this movie does is it's successful enough to set up Superman 2, which is a far superior movie. So with that, I'm going to echo Dakota. I'm going to give it a 7. All right. So
I think that's the closest we've ever been in our rankings. I mean, a 6.75, a 7, and a 7, and that's fairly.
Yeah. So, so 2 7s and a 6.75. That averages out to a 6.91. Ernie, where does that put us on our rankings?
That ties Moonstruck at 37. So it's right above Buckaroo Banzai and right below Princess Bride.
There's so much wrong with everything you just said. I do not like this movie more than Buckaroo Banzai, but I would definitely watch this over Moonstruck and Princess Bride.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so 6.91. That again, where did that bring us on our rankings list? I forgot the number.
Tied for 37th.
37
out of 41.
Out of 41. All right, and if you'd like to see that full rankings list, you can go to our website. That's podpage.com/classic blockbusters. That is podpage.com/classic blockbusters. You can get our full rankings list on there, as well as our movies and a bunch of other stuff. Ernie's been working hard on that, so we appreciate that. You can find us on our Facebook page. That is Blockbusters, a classic movie podcast. And you can also find us now on X, or Twitter, as it was formerly known. What is it? What was Prince, the artist formerly known as Prince? We would call that Twitter.
The artist formerly known as Prince, yeah.
You can find us on X/Twitter at BlockbusterPod1. We post our episodes both on Facebook and Twitter, so you can find that on there. We're streaming on Spotify and Apple Podcasts every week, and sometimes YouTube when we remember to upload it.
When somebody remembers to upload it. Not going to say who.
Okay.
Not bitter at all.
Part of that reason is you don't remember to upload it, because we're 3 weeks, and if you remember to upload it every week, you'd be asking me, why haven't you uploaded these episodes? But here we are.
Well, I haven't had to Google. I haven't had the file to edit to upload.
Yeah, but you haven't tried to update it. That's why you're just now 3 weeks after you uploaded the last one.
Oh, hey, no. Hold on. Did I not text you Saturday about this? I texted you last Thursday about this. I said this to you every week that we record this. I have too.
That's a bold-faced lie.
It is not a bold-faced lie. I say it to you every week.
Was the first time you've mentioned to it in
outside of a Wednesday, yes, but not on a recording night.
And darlings, this is what we call about fluff at the end of our podcast that we just
Ernie's
talked
just
about.
Mad because it's his pick, and he's trying. He wants to tell us what wonderful movie we're going to be watching.
No, because I'm still debating right now.
Why are you complaining?
No, did I complain? I wasn't complaining at all. We literally were just talking about how we have fluff at the end of our podcast, and lo and behold, that's what y'all gave us.
Do I need to Marlon Brando it up to give you a few more minutes?
No, you don't have to.
Okay. Well, what movie will we be watching next week, Ernie?
All right. So I'm truly going Blockbuster. I'm going Blockbuster here. And we are going Saving Private Ryan.
There you go. Would that be our first war film? I think so, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
No, Patriot. We did the Patriot.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I mean, if you're about the Revolutionary War, that doesn't count.
No, that was the movie about the Mel Gibson War. That was not the Revolutionary War. Remember, Mel Gibson won that war all by himself.
He did. I 100% believe that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is canon.
And he still has 2 Greyhound dogs with him.
Exactly. All right,
So,
saving.
Let me tell you what. It's a good thing I didn't cancel Paramount Plus because I came really close to hitting the cancel button on that today because I was like, I haven't watched anything on this in 2 months.
Well, that's probably a good thing because my second choice was on Paramount Plus also.
Whoa! You can't cancel that. We share that.
Whoa, I'm Rooch. What are you talking about?
I forgot about that. To be fair, I watched this on your Max account.
You did. So I thought, hey, wait.
Should we be publishing, saying that out loud? The mental police might come get y'all.
Have they made that illegal yet?
I don't think it's illegal to. As long as the streaming companies can regulate how many people can watch on the same account.
Yeah, they can do that.
All right, so Saving Private Ryan next week. Pretty excited about that. I haven't seen that in a while.
And by the way, that's John Williams, another John Williams movie. That's number 6 that we've done of John Williams.
Look at that! Movie. Look at that.
Steven Spielberg. Have we done? We did Raiders of the Lost Ark. Have we done anything else with Spielberg?
With Spielberg, let me look. I actually have that on the spreadsheet of directors.
Is that on there?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
sure is. Now look at that.
Let's see. Spielberg.
Jurassic Park.
Yes, with Jurassic Park. So this will be our first time to have 3 movies from one director. Well, it's with Spielberg. And our first Tom Hanks movie too.
No, that can't be right. We've done a Tom Hanks movie. I feel like.
Let's look at our actor list too.
Oh my gosh!
How
many tabs does this spreadsheet have?
Hey, don't worry about it. Tabs are great. Okay.
Let's see.
Where's Tom Hanks on the? Okay, this is not organized.
It's on the T's first because I haven't got to changing. Tom Berenger, Tom Cruise, Tom Skerritt, Tom Wilkinson.
How many actors are on this list?
There are 636 actors.
People can't see this list, so they probably already checked out anyways, just like they were at 47 minutes into Superman.
Fluff. This is me contributing to the fluff at the end of the podcast.
This is why our podcasts are an hour and 30 minutes long every week.
So thank you guys for listening, and as Ernie says, we will see you at the movies.